The mahogany conference table reflected 15 faces of greed as the lawyer cleared his throat, but only my stepson Christopher's expression mattered when he heard the number, $1. His mother's Botox couldn't hide her shock as Mr. Whitfield continued reading my late husband Richard's will. To my son Christopher, I leave the sum of $1 for reasons he knows well, the same reasons now documented with the FBI. But the real bombshell wasn't the money, it was the USB drive I placed on the table containing 3 years of recorded conversations proving they'd been planning to murder Richard long before I'd ever saved his life. What the hell is this? Christopher shot up from his leather chair, his Armani suit suddenly looking like costume armor on a defeated general. This is fraud. He wasn't in his right mind. Mr. Porter, the estate attorney, Gerald Whitfield, adjusted his glasses with practiced calm. Your father underwent comprehensive cognitive testing 6 months ago. I have documentation from 3 independent physicians confirming his complete mental competency. Richard's ex-wife, Patricia, gripped her Louis Vuitton bag like a weapon. This is impossible. The prenup guaranteed, the prenup you violated, I interrupted, speaking for the first time since entering the room. When you embezzled from Nexus Industries during the divorce proceedings. Richard documented everything. My name is Dr. Amelia Santos Porter. 5 years ago, I was a biomedical engineer working 18-hour days in a cramped lab, developing revolutionary cardiac stent technology. Today, I sat in a 42nd floor conference room in Manhattan, watching my husband's family realize their decades-long con had failed. You manipulated him, Christopher snarled, his Yale-polished veneer cracking. Fed him lies about us while he was weak. I pulled out my phone, swiping to a video. This was taken 2 weeks ago. Richard's voice filled the room, strong and clear. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone and Amelia is dealing with your bullshit, Chris. So let me be crystal clear, my wife saved my life, saved my company, and saved me from you. On screen, Richard sat in his study, the same mahogany panels behind him that his grandfather had installed in 1952. He looked directly at the camera, his blue eyes sharp as surgical steel. 3 years ago, I was dying. The company was hemorrhaging money because of Patricia's sabotage and your incompetence, Christopher. I had a heart attack in my office, the stress of watching 4 generations of work crumble. Amelia was presenting her stent technology to our medical division. She didn't just call 911. She performed CPR for 12 minutes until the paramedics arrived. 12 minutes of keeping me alive with her bare hands. I remembered those 12 minutes. Each compression. Each breath. His lips blue, his skin gray, while his executives stood frozen in horror. But that's not why I'm leaving her everything, Richard continued on video. It's what happened after. Mr. Whitfield paused the video. There are 17 more recordings. Would you like me to play them all, or shall we proceed with the reading? This is entrapment, Patricia's lawyer, a sharp-faced woman named Castillo, interjected. These recordings were made without consent. New York is a one-party consent state, I said calmly. Richard consented to recording himself. I consented to recording our conversations. Everything is admissible. You're not even American. Christopher exploded. You're some Filipino. Filipino-American with dual PhDs from MIT, I corrected. And 37 patents that saved Nexus Industries from bankruptcy. But please, continue with the xenophobia. Mr. Whitfield is recording this meeting too. Christopher's face went from red to purple. Behind him, his mother's army of lawyers whispered frantically. Perhaps, Mr. Whitfield suggested, we should examine the evidence Dr. Santos Porter mentioned. I opened my briefcase, the same one Richard had given me our first Christmas together, engraved with, to the woman who holds my heart, literally and figuratively. Inside were organized folders, each labeled with dates and names. January 15th, 3 years ago, I began, pulling out the first transcript. Christopher meets with Nexus board member Harrison Vale. Quote, if the old man dies, I inherit everything. The prenup ensures mom gets nothing, and there's no way he'll remarry at his age. That's taken out of context. The context being your father had just survived a massive heart attack. I pulled out the next folder. February 3rd, Patricia Porter contacts Dr. Marcus Webb about accelerating natural causes. Dr. Webb reported this to the authorities, but insufficient evidence meant no charges were filed. Until now. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. March 22nd. Christopher accesses his father's medical records illegally. Yes, we traced the login, and researches drug interactions with his heart medication. Specifically, medications that would cause another heart attack. You can't prove. April 10th. I set down photos of Christopher at a pharmacy in Newark. Purchasing medications under a false name. The same medications found in Richard's home office coffee maker 2 days later. The only reason he survived was because I'd replaced his coffee with decaf on doctor's orders. You poisoned decaf, Christopher. Pointless but thoroughly documented. Patricia stood abruptly. We're leaving. This is harassment. Sit down, Mr. Whitfield commanded with surprising authority. The will reading isn't complete, and leaving now forfeits all claims to the estate. She sat, hands trembling beneath her frozen face. Shall I continue with the evidence? I asked. Or would you like to hear what Richard really left you? There's more than $1. Christopher asked, hope flickering pathetically. Oh yes. Mr. Whitfield turned the page. To my son Christopher, in addition to $1, I leave the complete collection of evidence regarding his attempted patricide, to be forwarded to the district attorney should he contest this will or harass my widow in any way. To my ex-wife Patricia, I leave the annotated records of her embezzlement, tax fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. These documents are currently held in escrow. Any attempt to challenge this will or harm Amelia releases them to the FBI, IRS, and SEC simultaneously. Silence thick as blood filled the room. To my wife, Dr. Amelia Santos Porter, Whitfield continued, his voice warming noticeably, I leave the remainder of my estate, including but not limited to, all properties, Nexus Industries and its subsidiaries, investment portfolios, and intellectual property rights. Additionally, I grant her full control of the Maria Santos Memorial Foundation, which we established to provide cardiac care to underserved communities in honor of her late mother. He looked up. The estate's total value is approximately $1.8 billion. Billion? Patricia's voice cracked. That's impossible. The company was failing. I agreed. Until my patents revolutionized cardiac stent technology. Nexus went from near bankruptcy to industry leader in 3 years. Every major hospital in the world uses our stents. Richard and I built that together. You stole our birthright, Christopher spat. I earned my partnership. With science. With 18-hour days. With innovations that saved 20,000 lives annually. I pulled out another folder. Unlike you, who spent those 3 years doing what, exactly? Oh, right, cocaine, gambling, and attempting murder. You have no proof of cocaine. I slid photos across the table. Christopher at various clubs, credit card statements, rehab records he thought were sealed. Richard hired investigators after the poisoning attempt, I explained. He wanted to understand how his son became this. The report was comprehensive. Why? Patricia's voice broke through her cosmetic paralysis. Why did he choose you over his own blood? I could have been cruel. Could have mentioned the affairs, the theft, the years of disappointment. Instead, I pulled out a letter Richard had written, hands shaking from his heart condition but words firm. He asked me to read this if you questioned his decision, I said, unfolding the paper. Patricia and Christopher, you wonder why Amelia? Let me list what she never asked for: money, jewelry, vacations, shopping sprees, a board position, insider trading tips, or a bigger prenup. Let me list what she gave: her patents to save my company, asking only for fair licensing fees. Her nights, sitting with me through cardiac rehab. Her brilliance, turning Nexus from a failing legacy into a thriving future. Her forgiveness, when I was too proud to admit I needed help. You spent 20 years taking. She spent 3 years giving. You called her a gold digger because you couldn't imagine someone loving me without wanting my money. That says everything about you and nothing about her. Christopher, you were given every advantage: best schools, trust funds, connections. You squandered them all, then tried to kill me for more. $1 is more than you deserve, but I wanted you to know I remembered you in my will. I remembered everything. Patricia, you broke my heart long before the divorce. But trying to corrupt our son into a murderer? That broke my soul. Amelia healed both. So yes, she gets everything. She already gave me everything: more years of life, a company reborn, and the knowledge that Real love does exist. I just had to wait 67 years to find it. Be grateful I'm leaving you only shame and not prison sentences. That mercy is also Amelia's influence. I wanted you prosecuted. She argued for discretion, saying public humiliation would hurt innocent employees and shareholders. Even now, she protects what we built while you tried to destroy it. The dollar is symbolic. You know what it means, Christopher. The same dollar I gave you when you were 5, told you it was the first of your fortune if you worked hard and stayed honest. You spent it on candy and demanded more. Nothing has changed in 35 years. Richard Matthew Porter. I finished reading to a room so quiet I could hear Patricia's Cartier watch ticking. Christopher stared at the table like a broken toy. There's a codicil, Mr. Whitfield added softly. Should either of you reform, truly reform, with evidence of sustained charity work, legitimate employment, and psychological counseling, Dr. Santos Porter has discretionary power to provide financial assistance. Not inheritance. Assistance. Charity? Christopher laughed bitterly. From her? The same charity I showed when I didn't press charges for attempted murder, I replied. The same charity Richard showed by not destroying you completely. Yes, charity. It's what humans do for each other. When did you know? Patricia asked quietly. About the poisoning? The night it happened. I have a very sensitive palate, comes from years of lab work. The coffee tasted wrong. I made Richard pour it out, sent samples to my lab. I met her eyes. I've known for 3 years that your son tried to murder my husband. I've slept next to that knowledge, eaten breakfast with it, smiled at family gatherings knowing it. Why didn't you? Because Richard begged me not to. Said Christopher was sick, needed help, not prison. I agreed on one condition: everything got documented. Every conversation, every transaction, every scheme. I gestured to my briefcase. 3 years of evidence, waiting. For this moment, Christopher said flatly. You planned this? No. I planned for a long life with Richard. Cancer doesn't care about plans. My voice caught for the first time. 6 months from diagnosis to death. Your father faced it with more grace than you've shown in your entire life. The recordings, Patricia's lawyer interjected. You mentioned FBI involvement? Check your phones, I suggested. They did. Christopher went white. Patricia gasped. Their lawyers muttered expletives. Federal agents raided your homes 20 minutes ago, I explained. The Financial Crimes Division has questions about offshore accounts, money laundering, and tax evasion. Richard's death triggered automatic release of sealed documents to authorities. His final gift to justice. You vindictive bitch, Christopher breathed. No. Vindictive would have been letting you succeed with the poisoning, then watching you go to prison for life. This is justice. Measured, documented, legal justice. Mr. Whitfield cleared his throat. There are several minor bequests to staff and charities, but I believe we've covered the substantial portions. Are there any questions? How do we know the will is real? Patricia demanded desperately. Whitfield produced a video tablet. Mr. Porter insisted on video documentation of the signing. Would you like to see it? On screen, Richard sat with 3 witnesses and a notary. Date stamp, 2 weeks ago. He looked directly at the camera. I, Richard Matthew Porter, being of sound mind and body, sounder than I've been in years thanks to my wife's technology and care, do hereby sign this last will and testament. I want it clear that no coercion exists. Amelia doesn't even know I'm doing this. She thinks I'm at a board meeting. He smiled, that crooked grin I fell in love with. Surprise, darling. You get to keep saving lives. That's all you ever wanted anyway. The video ended with Richard signing, witnesses affirming, notary stamping. Ironclad. We'll contest, Christopher said weakly. With what money? I asked. Your accounts are frozen pending federal investigation. Your credit cards were canceled for fraud. The apartment you live in? Owned by Nexus Industries. The car? Leased through the company. All terminated as of this morning. You can't. I'm CEO now. I can and did. I stood, gathering my papers. Richard left you $1 and your freedom. Take both and disappear, or lose both fighting shadows. Mrs. Porter, one of Patricia's lawyers, spoke carefully. Perhaps some arrangement could be made? To avoid publicity? Publicity? I pulled out my phone, showing trending headlines. Tech billionaire leaves fortune to scientist wife, son gets $1. The story broke an hour ago. Richard arranged for posthumous press releases, wanting to celebrate our company's success and my contributions. He was very specific, no mention of your crimes unless you forced it. I paused at the door. You have 48 hours before eviction proceedings begin. Use them wisely. Amelia, Patricia's voice stopped me. Did you ever love him? Or was it just opportunity? I turned, letting her see my grief for the first time. I loved him from the moment he woke up in cardiac recovery and asked if his company's tech could help other heart patients. Not his money. Not his power. His first thought was helping others. That's who you tried to kill. That's who I'll spend my life honoring. $1 billion of honoring? Christopher sneered. Every penny going to research, development, and charity. I don't need money. I need purpose. Richard gave me both, a partner who believed in my work and resources to save lives. I looked at him with pity. You'll never understand that. Money was all you ever saw in him. It's all you'll ever be worth, $1. I left them in that conference room with their schemes in ashes and their futures in federal hands. The elevator ride down felt like ascending, weight lifting with each floor. In the lobby, my driver waited. James had been with Richard for 20 years, the only staff member who'd refused Patricia's bribes to spy on us. Home, Dr. Porter, he asked gently. The lab, I corrected. Richard would want me working. He would, James agreed, smiling sadly. Said so this morning, actually. Left you a message. He handed me an envelope. Richard's handwriting, for my brilliant wife, to be opened after the circus. I read it in the car. Darling, If you're reading this, the vultures have learned they're getting nothing and you're probably feeling guilty about it. Don't. You saved my life in every way that matters. First literally, then figuratively. The company, yes, but more importantly, you saved my soul. You showed me that love isn't transaction, it's transformation. Use our resources to transform more lives. Create. Innovate. Heal. Be the force of nature I fell in love with. And know this, every moment of these 5 years was worth any price. You were never the gold digger, darling. I was. I dug for gold and found a diamond. Save the world, my love. I'll be watching. Eternally yours, Richard. The tears came then, in the privacy of the car, while Manhattan blurred past. Grief for the man who'd seen me not as an opportunity but as a partner. Who'd protected me even in death from those who would diminish us. By the time we reached the lab, I'd dried my eyes and steeled my spine. Inside, my team waited, brilliant minds Richard and I had assembled to change the world. Dr. Porter, my lead researcher, Marcus, approached hesitantly. We heard. I'm so sorry. Thank you, I said, pulling on my lab coat. Now, let's talk about the new pediatric stent project. We have lives to save. But shouldn't you take time? Richard gave me time. 5 beautiful years. Now he's given me resources and freedom to honor that time. I looked at my team, these dedicated scientists who'd become family. We have $1.8 billion and the best cardiac technology on Earth. Let's make sure no one else loses their Richard to heart disease. We worked until midnight, like we always did. But now with Richard's photo on my desk, next to my mother's, watching over innovations that would outlive us all. Christopher was wrong. I was a gold digger. I dug through cardiac tissue to find gold standard solutions. I dug through data to find golden ratios of success. I dug through grief to find the gold of purpose. And Richard knew it. He'd known from that first day, when I'd refused to let him die on his office floor. He'd known I'd dig for the gold that mattered, the bright seam of hope that runs through human hearts, waiting to be saved. $1 for his son. $1 billion for saving the world. Richard always did appreciate poetic justice.